Okay, what's up, y'all? So last video, I told you guys about the list of 20 medicinal herbs that I got off of Chat GPT that I want to use to start my own medicinal herb garden. Well, I went to the nursery to get some of those herbs last week with my mom. And if you follow me on TikTok, you'll see a video where I kind of went to one of the big nurseries here locally, and then we went to another nursery, and we could not find but like maybe 4 or 5 herbs off of that list. So the entrepreneur in me was very much like, okay, there's a gap in the marketplace. If these huge nurseries only have aloe, chamomile, mint, and rosemary, I can do that on my farm and create it as another cash crop. So I immediately was inspired to, really try to figure out how to start a medicinal herb business in addition to growing those medicinal herbs for my family, because if I have a hard time getting them, that means other people are having a hard time getting them. And the entrepreneur in me says there's an opportunity there. So I went ahead and took my farm calculator, and all of those 20 herbs that I gave you in the previous video, I created a tab for each of them. This farm calculator, you guys have heard me talk about this before. I created it in a Google sheet so that I could basically determine how much money, reverse engineer the money basically, because I would love to be doing this full time, but you have bills and stuff you have to pay. In agriculture, you need to figure out how to make money in order to be able to do it full time. So this calculator was like a starting ground for me for that. So this is for 2025. I'm not going to try to do this in 2024. This is going to be the year that I plan things out. I took all 20 of those herbs, medicinal herbs is my focus, and I listed each of them here, cash crop number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way. And since this spreadsheet only takes care of 10 cash crops at a time, I just made a quick copy of it and then made a part 2 with the other 10 medicinal herbs. So I've got part 1 here, and I've got part 2 here, right? So each of them is the same spreadsheet, but basically what my goal will be is to sell these as seedlings. Now keep in mind, when I went to the nursery, I was having fun and spending time with my mom, but as the entrepreneur, I was looking at, okay, what are they charging for these seedlings? How big are these seedlings? And, what is the potential profit here? So I looked and saw both of the big nurseries were charging $3.99 per seedling. So I plan on doing something similar, but again, I'm focusing on just medicinal herbs, not trying to compete with them. I could never compete with those big nurseries, but I see where they lack, and they lack in the medicinal herb space. So I'm going to sell them as seedlings, and so I need to use this spreadsheet to be able to figure out how much all of this is going to cost and what the income potential is going to be. First thing, though, I have to go over to my State Department of Agriculture's website and see how much it's going to cost for me to recertify as a nursery or a greenhouse. And I've done this before, but I let it expire because, I wasn't growing anything, and it was like, money that I was spending and I wasn't doing anything with. So on my State Department of Agricultural site, there is a plant certification forms, and then here it brings you to the different applications. So it tells you, it gives you the description about the different categories here. And for me, it would be nursery license or greenhouse. I could probably go with either one. I would probably call them again to see which one I had last time and just go with that. So I've got the form pulled up here. Let me get it pulled back up. So here's the form, and as you can see, you can just click the type of license that you're going to grow. This is at least with the state of Tennessee. Every state, I'm sure, is going to have its own, different form. So if yours looks different, that's probably why. But as you can see, it breaks it down based on size. So I would go here, and you cannot resell plants without a license. So if you do that without a license, then you're asking for trouble. Just factor this into your cost of starting the business. So anywho, I would probably I have 2,800 square feet in the greenhouse, but I don't know that I don't know how I would do this. So I don't know if I would do greenhouse or nursery, but let's just pretend we do nursery, 600 square feet to 1 acre. So that's $250 that I would need to factor in as my part of my startup cost. But then I would go here and fill out all of this information and then submit my payment and all of that. But I'm not going to do that right now. I just came here to see how much it was going to cost. So that's the purpose of that. So I'll come back over here to my spreadsheet, and I'll go over to my first cash crop, which is garlic. And one of the first items that I'm going to put in there is going to be license. Now, of course, this cost is going to be distributed across the board, but I'm going to go ahead and put $250 in just so that I remind myself to include that as a part of my startup costs. So the way that this works is basically you take each of the cash crops and you go find out how much it's going to cost you to grow it. You start with the seeds, any fertilizer, obviously your labor, and all of those things need to be factored in. So how I would do this is I would go and get a idea of what it would cost for me to get heirloom garlic bulbs. All right, and I would see here, Burpee has, I would just get a good idea. I would do this for all 20 of those different things, and I'll just do garlic first. So let's just find garlic. And I know there's a whole bunch of different varieties. So here we have a whole bunch of bulbs, and obviously you'll have to start these according to when they need to be started, which is in the fall, and that's the best time to start garlic. So obviously this is, again, all about 2025. So this is not something I'm planning on doing this year, but this is the process that I am going to go through so that I can determine, so I can add this as a revenue stream. So we'll just pick this. Garlic, early Italian. No, I don't want to sign up. Okay, so a half a pound of bulbs, right? So these are a half a pound of bulbs, which is not necessarily a whole lot. I would have to figure out how much I would need. Average 11 cloves per bulb. Okay, this is good. So 90 days, 240 from the day of planting, harvest spring garlic, same season. Okay, so that's good. So that gives me a good idea about how many plants I would likely get from that. So I would go ahead and probably get 2 of those, maybe even 3, because I'm thinking in terms of myself and my community that will be purchasing from me. So I would add that to the cart, and then I would go over to the cart and see how much that would cost and put that number inside of my calculator. So let me go over to the cart. And of course, prices may change by the time I come back and do this, because right now I'm just doing my estimates. Subtotal is going to be $53.85. So I'm just going to say $60 because of taxes and shipping. So when I go to the garlic tab, I'm going to, already got the license cost in there. Now I need to go to the bulbs, and I'm going to put $60, right? And that $60 is half a pound of bulbs, and each bulb is going to have about 11 cloves. And so I would just have to guesstimate as far as how many plants that would be. And I'm not a garlic person, so I don't really know. But I'm just going to assume that I'll be able to get at least 100 plants. I may be wrong on that. Feel free to correct me in the comments, but I'm just guessing for the purpose of this video. So based on those 60 bulbs, I'm assuming I should be able to get 100 plants. Again, help me out in the comments. And then from there, I'm obviously going to need to make sure I have some planters, some seed containers, right? So I'm going to go over here and seed containers, or I could get away with some red Solo cups, honestly, right? I probably could get away with red Solo cups for some of these things. Seed containers, seedling containers. Let's see here. Seed trays. Or I may just go to nursery supplies. Let's go there and see if I can find a good, again, I'm not necessarily going to use these people. I'm just getting a good idea of how much things cost. So here's nurserysupplies.com, and I'm going to click on there just to see what all they have. Nursery containers, specialty containers, greenhouse products. So I'm going to just start with nursery containers and see what they have. Classic line. All right, perfect. All right, great. So all of these, and then with garlic, I may or may not be able to use these. I don't know. I'm just getting an idea on what it would actually be sold to the consumer in. Let me see if I can't find a better container for the garlic. Garlic probably was not the best one for me to start off with because I'm not very familiar with growing garlic and don't know really what it needs. So I am going to assume that I will sell those. I will grow them in one thing, and I don't know if they like to be transplanted. See, this is a bad plant to start with. Okay, so this is 11 centimeters. I'm assuming the 6-inch or 3-inch round is what I'm going to use, because that's what I saw. I think they were about 3 inches around. They're about this big, the seedling containers. Let me see if specialty containers. Let's go back. I think this is a little bit too advanced for my needs. Let's see here. 600 series, 60 containers. I don't know if I need them that big. Nursery pots. Let's go to Temu and see what they got. There we go. Okay, perfect. So we're just going to go with this. We're going to pretend like this is it. 50 pieces. Add to cart, just for time's sake, so that we can see how this process works. Oh, add to cart. There we go. And now let's go over here to the cart. Let's assume these are the size that works. Great, great, great. Got it, got it, got it. Okay, so 50 pieces, and I need 2 of these, assuming I've got 100 plants, right? So that's how you figure out how many you need. And it's going to tell you that it's going to be $8.96. So I'm going to come back over to my spreadsheet under equipment and put seedling containers. It's going to be $10, right? So that's basically how you go about this. And fertilizer, I already have. I've got plenty of rabbit fertilizer. I've got like over 1,500 pounds of rabbit fertilizer, because that was my first cash crop that I actually stopped selling when I got the greenhouse, because I knew I was going to need my own fertilizer. So instead of selling it now, I hoard it so that I can use it on my own cultivars, okay? So that's that. So that's how you go about it. And then as far as time, how much, you always want to calculate your labor. Never forget that part. How much time is it going to take me to plant all of these bulbs? And what does that look like as far as an hourly rate? Well, clearly, I am not going to go out and hire anybody to do that, but I clearly need to give myself a value. So I'm going to give myself a value of $15 an hour, because if I had to hire somebody to do that, that's probably the rate that I would be willing to pay. Am I worth more than 15 bucks an hour? Of course. Are you worth more than 15 bucks an hour? Of course. But for tax purposes, for profit pricing purposes, you want to make sure you you quantify your time somehow or another. And that's why I made sure I put this in the calculator. Okay, so I put the wrong number in the wrong place. So hours wise, let's just say it takes me, 2 hours a day for 2 weeks to get them all in the ground. And that is if everything is coming, I'm just doing one big planting. We're just going to pretend that that's the case. No succession planning here for this video. So we're going to say 2 hours a day for 2 weeks. That's 14 days. Let's say 5 days each week. It's 10 days, and that's 20 hours. So it's 20 hours at $15 an hour. So my labor cost is $300. I always recommend it with anything that you put your profit margin at least at 35%. And what that means is you are going to receive a 35% profit margin. This is how this works. This calculator helps you price your products accordingly. So and you can change this on the calculator. You can change this number. So 35% is the number that I would use, and I would come up here. And so all of those supplies would yield me 100 plants, so that I hope. And it's telling me that I would need to sell each of those garlic containers for $10 each, right? And so what I would probably do is I would probably hope that I got more than 100 plants, and I would probably put 3 bulbs or something like that in each container, right? That's probably how I would do that for the $10, right? Because I know a little bit about what the market will bear, and I don't know that the market will bear 10 bucks for one garlic plant. Or correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Talk to me about that in the comments. What would your market bear? Talk to me about this whole process. Let me know what you think about how I'm analyzing these expenses, and tell me if I'm missing out on any expenses that I would need specifically for garlic. Clearly you need equipment. Obviously you need a spade, a shovel, or whatever. You need soil. Okay, I'm assuming that some of those things are already there, but I shouldn't. Maybe we do need a specific type of soil. If that's the case, then we would come up here and we would put like organic soil or whatever, and then figure out how many bags or pounds or whatever that represented, and put that number in there and factor that into our pricing. Okay, so this is how it works. So anyway, so now my pricing went up. I would, if I felt like that number, if that was too high for what the market would bear for that particular garlic, I would say, you know what, I'm not going to do a retail markup on that. And as a matter of fact, I think I can get more than 100 plants. I think I can get 200 plants out of that bulb order. So that brings my price down to $4.86. So now I'm at $4.86 or $5 for a garlic seedling. You guys see how this works? So how that translates into your profitability is you come back over here to the retail tab and you see, okay, well, this is great. I have my garlic figured out. I got to go do the other 9 things, but so far if my goal is to, let's just say, cover the mortgage and property taxes and insurance, which for me would be about $3,000 a month, then I would need to have 617 seedlings sold, right? If I was only selling garlic. Well, let's go add ginger. Let's go add ginger. Let's go to the ginger tab and let's do the same thing. And if you'll notice, each of these tabs is similar. Each of them have a plant, a fungi, a livestock, and a value-added column. So we do the same thing with the ginger. We go over here and we go back to Burpee and we'd say, hey, ginger, I need some ginger, whatever, seedlings or bulbs. Let me see here, ginger seeds. Is that how you get ginger? Okay. I need to order some of this coriander. How do you start ginger? I have no idea. Okay, so I would need to find that out. So ginger is not working out for me right now. Ginger, how to grow ginger. Is ginger so you have to start ginger from ginger. Place the rhizomes about 1 inch deep in warm soil. So you would actually have to go get ginger and start to propagate it from ginger. So instead of buying ginger seeds or buying ginger slips, which doesn't exist probably, you have to go buy ginger. So first and foremost, that is going to be your goal, is to find out how much it costs to buy ginger, where to buy ginger, or you can grow it from root, it looks like. All right, awesome. So you have to go and buy some ginger root, and you would probably pick a good source of ginger root, right? Order a box of ginger online. I'm just going to use this as just a number. So here is a tropical ginger box, and it's $59. Let's see how much comes in it. And that's just going to give me an idea of our pricing. Okay, and this is awesome. Ginger is one of those roots. Oh, ginger is a root. My bad. I didn't know that. I know it now. Ginger is a root that you have to love. They go with many cuisines, ginger comes from in Ecuador and Costa Rica. This is a 5-pound box. It's about 3 per pound, so about 15 pieces of ginger in each box. Awesome. So there's only one left in stock, and so I would get that and put that into my cart, right? And so I know that that's going to be only 15 per box, $60. Let me make sure I got that number right. Yeah, 15 pieces in the box. So I come back over to my spreadsheet and I go to Ginger's tab and ginger root. And that's going to be $15 or $60. Let's call it $70 with taxes and shipping. And that's only going to get me 15 pieces of ginger, which I could possibly, if I'm thinking correctly, you guys correct me in the comments, 15 pieces of ginger should be able to be cultivated in more than 15 ginger plants. I'm thinking, okay, help me out on that. Because I know that you can cut it up into pieces. Never done it before, but I'm about to learn, so help me out with that. So we're just going to assume, I'm going to assume that 15 pieces of ginger you can make 30 plants out of. I'm just going to assume that. Like I say, correct me if I am wrong. So ginger root is going to cost me $70, and there's going to be all sorts of things that you're going to need with that. What I would probably do, I would probably go back to this garlic tab, and that $250 that I put as an expense for the license. Since I'm doing 20 different plants, what I'll probably do is just grab my calculator and take that 250 and divide it by 20 and put $12.50 on each of these plants. So $12.50 for the garlic, $12.50 for the ginger. Do you see how I'm distributing the cost of the license with each price, with the price of each of these? So I do that for each of those 10 things, right? And then when I went to part 2, for those 10 herbs, I would do the same thing. So that's how you can distribute the cost of something that's going to basically cover everything. So on that ginger, so I distributed the costs. Obviously, you got fertilizer, you got, let's just say, soil, you got fertilizer. And even though I already have fertilizer, I would quantify it. In other words, I would sell it to myself. Let's say the soil was $100 and the fertilizer was $100. Let me go do that same thing with my garlic, soil, and fertilizer. All right, so organic soil and fertilizer. Okay, so that changed my pricing up there a little bit. Oh, that's really good. Once I distributed the cost of the license, the plant license, It brought my ginger down to $3.93. So if I am only able to get 100, then it would be $8. But I still think I could get 200 plants out of those 2.5 pounds or whatever it was. And coming over to the ginger, same deal. I'm going to go ahead and get that retail markup out of there. I've distributed my costs. Same thing on the hours. I'm going to say, 20 hours, $15 an hour, just so I can get some quantification there. And it's saying $26.21. Ginger is a little bit more expensive, it looks like. So hopefully I can get 30 plants out of those 15. It would be great if I could get 90, right, to bring the cost down, or even 100. So you guys talk to me about the potential of taking 15 pieces of ginger. How much could I really stretch that out into? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so I'm going to pretend like I can get 200 plants out of that 15 pieces, right? So that my price is in line with what the market will bear for a seedling. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the retail tab and see how that plays out. Remember, I'm trying to get $3,000 a month coming from my new nursery that I'm planning on for 2025, my medicinal herbs, right? So I'm going to go to the retail tab. This calculator lets you reverse engineer the thing. So now I've got garlic as cash crop number 1. It's recommending a $3.93 retail. And I've got ginger as cash crop number 2. It's also recommending a $3.93 retail. And so that means that now I've got to sell 381 of each of those. And clearly I need to make sure I include my, my containers, which I forgot to talk about that on here. And so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put the price of the containers there. I'm just going to say $10. We'll see if that's actually the actual thing that ends up happening. But again, I'm just using this as an example so that you can see how much it would possibly be. This is the methodology, if you will. So forgive me if it's not exact. I know these numbers are not exact. So far we've got 2 crops, and then we can see how they contribute to getting us our farm goal, our homestead income goal. With me, it's $3,000 a month, okay? With you, it might be $2,000 a month. If that's the case, you change your number up top, and it tells you exactly how many you need to sell based on that. Another thing that's important is you have to have people to sell to. So while I'm growing my ginger, while I'm growing my garlic, I'm going to be doing a lot of posting on my Facebook, on my TikTok, educating people on how to do this, showing them what the process looks like to grow, and then offering them some free guidance on how to get started themselves. And as I'm doing that, I'm building an audience, and I'm also gathering emails and names so that when it's time to launch the nursery in 2025, then I've got, hopefully lots of people on this list. And in this spreadsheet, it tells me I need, if I want to be able to sell a total of 504 units, 254 of garlic and 250 of ginger, then I need 2,500 people in my database. So over the next 12 months, I need to be busy building my database to the tune of 2,500 people if I plan on just selling garlic and ginger. But of course, I will be fleshing this out completely with all 20 medicinal herbs. And I will be doing that in the Homestead Heroes group live. So if you want to join me for that training, definitely make sure you're a part of the group. And definitely let me know any comments, any suggestions about these 2 cash crops, garlic and ginger, that we talked about today. Okay, I'll see y'all there. Talk to you soon. Peace.